When you look at the cost of getting into triathlon, there is a lot of super expensive tri gear that we could buy, and most of it is a total waste of money that won't make any of us any faster. But in some cases, those luxury purchases will actually make a big difference in our training and racing. These 8 super high-end purchases are the best ways to get rid of that $40,000 burning a hole in your pocket, or they're just a fun way to spend a few minutes on YouTube lusting after things we'll buy in our rich and famous futures. What's up, motivators? My name is Taren. When ordinary people want to accomplish something extraordinary in endurance sports, they choose our totally free Motive training plans. You ready to take on that next big endurance challenge? Let's do it. Before getting into this, I want to say that every single one of these items is something that I have tested and used for years. We are going to start at the least expensive upgrades and then work our way to the obscenely expensive purchases. The first high-end purchase is a set of Magic 5 3D printed swim goggles. Now, these aren't a huge expense. They only cost about $85 to $95 depending on the model that you want to get. These are twice as expensive as the average goggle. The thing that's really nice about the Magic 5 goggles is that you take a scan of your face, and the Magic 5 3D prints goggles specifically for your eye socket. So what happens is you get a really nice narrow set of goggles that don't create a lot of drag in the water, that are specifically customized to you, so you have a huge amount of viewing area, and you don't have to put a ton of pressure on those goggles to suction them down to your face. It's a fairly small difference in price for a big difference in performance, and the more we can enjoy our swimming, the better we will be. I'm not sponsored by the Magic 5 goggles, but I have a link to where you can get them with a small discount on the Magic 5's website in the description below. The next thing that I found made a huge difference was tracking my heart rate variability. Now, you can do this on a Garmin watch, you can use a Whoop strap, you can use an Oura ring, you can even use an app like HRV for training. In a lot of cases, those are going to cost anywhere from $50 to, say, $400. Heart rate variability measures the difference in when your heart beats. When you're really healthy and you're training really well and recovering really well, there will actually be a lot of variation in the difference in the amount of time that it takes for your heart to beat from one beat to the next. But if you're sick, or you're overtraining, or you drank a bottle of wine the night before, your heartbeats are going to just be going through the motion, and there isn't going to be a lot of variation in those heartbeats. So what heart rate variability allows you to do is you start to understand how much is too much, when can you push a little bit more, what activities that you do one day affect you in your readiness the next day. Doing it for a period of about 3 to 4 months will allow you to go through a number of cycles of training and go through your day-to-day routines, understanding what affects your readiness to train and how much you need to offset that with proper recovery. The next luxury purchase that people ask questions about is a set of super shoes. Super shoes are carbon-plated shoes where there is a plate of carbon going through the sole of the shoe, and it tends to match with a sole made of Pebax foam and give you a really big spring with every single foot strike that you make. Now, yes, there have been some studies showing that super shoes might increase the likelihood of injury. I haven't really seen the studies designed really well to convince me that the super shoes are causing these injuries. What I have seen, however, is study after study, person after person, including myself, that put on a pair of super shoes and almost instantly increased the speed that they ran. You just have to make sure that you offset the use of those super shoes with a gradual introduction of using them a little bit week by week, more and more, and making sure that you're doing strength training to offset that need for a nice, stable lower leg. Super shoes cost anywhere from $200 all the way up to almost $500, but in my opinion, they're very well worth it. The fourth thing that is related to that is a really nice strength setup that you can do at home. Us triathletes tend not to be gym rats where we really like going and doing strength training in a gym, but that doesn't mean that we should ignore strength training. I think that we should all be doing more strength training than almost any of us endurance athletes are, because there is no one single thing that is consistently proven time and time and again to be as significant a performance enhancer as strength training is. Thing about it is that us triathletes are very busy with swim, bike, run, and our day-to-day life to fit in strength training, so if we have a nice strength training setup at home, we're going to be much more likely to do it. The cost of a really good strength training setup is actually far less than you think. We actually found that the use of about 5 kettlebells, for men ranging from about 15 pounds all the way up to about 55 pounds, and women ranging from 10 pounds all the way up to about 45 pounds is more than enough to do every single strength workout that endurance athletes need to do. Everything from heavy strength workouts to very mobility focused workouts to very stability focused workouts. Kettlebells are about as versatile as you can possibly get, and for about $500 to $700, you can get anywhere between about 5 and 7 kettlebells, and you will have a perfect gym setup that you won't ever have to go and buy additional equipment for. The next most important luxury purchase that I think people should seriously consider is their bike touchpoint setup. And by that, what I mean is the front end of your bike, the bike saddle, and getting a proper bike fit. We only interact with the bike at 3 points: pedals, seat, and handlebars. The pedals don't adjust a lot, but a seat adjusts up, down, forward. The design of the saddle can change the width, the length. Is it a split nose or is it a single nose? And then the front end of the bike, the cockpit, where we get into the aero bar position, and getting that position so dialed in that we are powerful and comfortable and aerodynamic is going to make a huge difference in your performance. And get off the bike and still feel fresh. That's when you start becoming a really deadly triathlete. This is going to make a much bigger difference than the $12,000, $14,000, $17,000 bike. I think that people should be actually looking at getting more like the $6,000 to $8,000 bike and then saving that additional money for maybe the $1,000 to $2,000 that you have to spend on a customized front end cockpit, a saddle that you love, and a bike fit to nail it all down. The sixth thing that I really liked when I was training a lot was a super nice Zwift setup. And it doesn't have to be a Zwift setup, it can be a Trainer Road setup, it can be a Rouvy setup, and I believe that the Zwift Hub trainer is probably the single best trainer out there for getting started training indoors. But if you want the ultimate experience, the setup that I loved the most was a Wahoo kicker paired with a Wahoo rise that raised the front end of the bike up and down as I went over hills in Zwift. And now I'd probably even add in a rocker plate, because rocker plates seem to be getting a lot more realistic to take that pressure off the saddle just being locked into one place. And then having a really big TV and a fan right in front of you to cool you off, that was by far the most enjoyable Zwift setup that I ever used. The second to last thing, you are going to say that's very lame, so I will make it very quick, but it does make a huge difference, is a really nice bed setup. And this might cost anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000, but having a bed that you love being in, that you don't feel sore after in the morning, and then a temperature and setup in the room with the lights and maybe an eye mask, basically your entire sleep hygiene setup to make sure that you can get in at least 7 continuous hours of sleep every single night. It's gonna sound like a very small thing, but it is probably just as impactful as having a good strength training setup in your training plan. Moving on to the very most expensive piece of triathlon equipment that I ever tried and fell in love with, we'll end it with the Master Spa's swim spa, costing anywhere from $35,000 to $70,000. Full disclosure here, I'm not sponsored by Master Spas anymore, but I used to be sponsored by Master Spas. My first Master Spas swim spa was given to me by Master Spas. When we moved at one point, I bought another swim spa out of my own pocket. The reason being that the amount of time that you spend in a swim spa as an amateur swimmer is way more impactful than the thousands of meters that you could swim on your own or even in a swim group. When I got the first Master Spa swim spa, I went from those 4 60 to 90 minute swims down to 3 30-minute swims in the Master Spa swim spa and just 1 swim squad swim. And even though I was swimming less than half as much, this was actually when I was swimming my fastest. The reason being that I had a mirror on the bottom of the swim spa and then a mirror in front. And every single stroke that I took was very purposeful, where I could see the exact technique. I was able to fix technique issues that I'd been working on for 6 years. I got about 15 seconds faster per 100 meters, all in the course of about 2 months. Again, I'm not sponsored by Master Spas anymore, but I still have a link where you can go and get a discount on a swim spa of your own. That is linked in the description below. Now, I want to hear from you. What was the favorite purchase you've ever made in triathlon? Maybe it was a small purchase, maybe it was a big purchase, but I want to hear what is the most favorite thing that you have ever purchased. Let me know in the comments below. And finally, if you want to see the worst purchases that you can make that are expensive and don't make a difference in either your race or your training performance, click the video that's on the screen right now where I talk about the biggest wastes of money that triathletes shouldn't make. Later, motivators.